Welcome back. So in today's class, we'll be looking at adding simple formulas, creating simple formulas in Excel. So let's just add up. Let me add column. Let's call this column score. So let's say these are the scores of all these staff during a promotion. Um, so over 100, let's say the first person got 87, the next 82. So I'm just going to fill all this down there. Okay, so I filled up the cells. After three sets of examinations, the scores are out. And Sergeant Papi has 87 in the first examination, 83 in the second, and 93 in the third. So I have an extra column here where I want to sum up all the scores in the previous tests or the previous examination. Now, the first rule about writing formulas in Excel is that every formula starts with an equal to sign. So, without the equal to sign, Excel doesn't understand that this is a formula. Excel will interpret any entry as plain text or as plain data. So for Excel to interpret your entry as a formula, you must add the equal to sign. So we are saying Excel add 87 plus 83 plus 93 and we press our enter. So the sum is 263, which is 87 plus 83 plus 93. If I stretch this down, it does the same for everybody. It sums up 70 plus 70 plus 79 gives us 219. That's one way to sum up. Let's take another way of summing up. Now, I'm not going to create a new column so it can show us the address because since it is in a table, it is showing us at score 1, at score 2, and at score 3 because it is in a table. So I'm going to give us another example without adding a new column in our table. What I'm going to do is to move or create a copy of all these scores. Copy. I'm going to insert a new sheet. So this sheet is plain and doesn't have anything to do with the table. I'm going to paste them here. Control V. So I've pasted my scores here without being in a table. Now I can show you what happens when you use the sum function when you try to make a formula without having your data already in a table. Let's go with our equal to sign. And then we say we want to sum. So what do we want to sum? We start by opening our parentheses, our brackets, and we say number one is 87. So it tells us 87 is in A1. A1, put our comma, 83, B1, comma, and 93, C1. Then we close our parentheses and we hit the enter button. So you see, it still shows us 263, just like the table did. But what's the difference? In our table, it shows us it is summing the values in the column score 1, which is this, plus the column score 2, plus the column score 3. But without being in a table, it is showing us that it is just adding the values in house A1, that's the address, plus house B1 plus house C1 as shown in the address box. So we can drag this down and it gives us everything with the last being 219, just as the last we have here is 219. So we've gotten the sum. We can just say, now let's get the average. That's the mean. So I'm inserting a new column to the right. I'm going to name this. This is going to be the average score. Now, two ways we can do this. I'm going to name this average one, and then I'm going to just create average two. Let me stretch this a little so we can see better. So for average one, this is what I'm going to use. I'm going to use the normal mathematics like we've always done here. I would say my equal to sign, the sum divided by 3. Now I'm using 3 because there are 3 incidences. 3 incidents, score 1, score 2, and score 3. And these are the sums of them. So the incidences are thrice. So the average is going to be the total of the scores divided by 3. That gives us 87.667. On a second option, I can say, okay, instead of giving me this divided by this, just give me the average directly, my equal to sign, and I type average. So Excel has a way of completing what you are looking for. So you see average, it says average returns the average, that's the arithmetic mean of its arguments, which can be numbers or names, arrays or references that contains numbers. I'm going to just complete that average. Like we've always done before, we open our parentheses. So what is number one? The score one, comma, score two, comma, and then score three. Then we close our parentheses. Enter. So it gives us 87.667. Now we can also say, instead of saying score one, comma, score two, comma, score three, we can say, give me the average, and I drag my cursor across the 3 cells. I drag my cursor across the 3 cells. Let me do that again. Just delete this. So I've opened my bracket. I put my cursor on the first column that I want to select. And without lifting my cursor, I drag. So I can either drag horizontally or vertically. So I drag, my hands are still held firm on my cursor, my selection, and I drag across to the end. So with that, you can see that it says in table 1, in table 10, I'm getting the average from score 1 to score 3. I close my brackets and then I enter. So it gives me the same parenthesis, 87.667. Let's go to where we did it without the tables and do that also. So if I come here and I say, give me the average, I put my cursor on A1 and I drag across to C1. So you see, it says the average of A1 across all the way. That's what the column indicates, all the way to C1. I close my parenthesis and it gives me 87.667. Now, I don't like it being in multiple decimal places, so I can just come here to increase or decrease my decimal places. So I want to decrease decimal places, and then see it goes down. I want just two decimal places, two decimal places. If I come back to my intermediates, I say, okay, I want all this to be in two decimal places. So we have all this in two decimal. I can drag this to fill, and you see they all stay in two decimal places. And we all have this. So any which way you use, dividing by 3 or the average of the scores, either by using the comma or by panning across, you would get the same values. So with that, we can see that for each of the staff, we've seen their average across 3 quizzes or 3 examinations, and now we can judge them and know if they are ready for promotion to the next level. Okay, now in the basics, we learned how to freeze panes, how to freeze panes. So let me just see how that applies here. Now, the first detail on our work is the names. Names. So I'm going to freeze this particular column. So on freezing this column, it doesn't go anywhere. So regardless of how far I stretch this, I can see the names. So even if I'm working with a lot of data to A, the names remains frozen. Now I can say, okay, let me filter this. Let me sort this average from the smallest to the largest, which means Waobani Chijindu scored the lowest, and the highest is of course a Sergeant Papi. And we've also scored this from the highest to the lowest, sorting it from the largest to the smallest. I would see who came first in average among all the staff, and then I can see who came last in average. So this is how we can use the sum average to know who came best, who came last, or who came not best. Um, and then we can do much more lovely things with Excel. Please like, subscribe, and drop your comments. We'll see in the next class. Thank you.